Let me describe a couple to you and tell me if this sounds familiar. They are both working professionals. She is in marketing, pulling in about $62,000 a year. He works in IT, making around $71,000. Combined household income, $133,000. That puts them in the top 25% of American households. On paper, they should be crushing it. Maxing out retirement accounts, building a solid investment portfolio, taking vacations without checking their bank balance first. They should feel financially secure. Instead, they are stressed. They are living paycheck to paycheck, or close to it. They have maybe 2 months of expenses saved up, and that is being generous. When their car needed an unexpected repair last month, they put it on a credit card. They both work full-time, sometimes more than full-time. They are exhausted. They rarely see each other during the week except for a few tired hours in the evening before they collapse into bed and do it all again. And the craziest part is they have done everything right. They got the degrees. They built the careers. They got married. Combined their finances. Bought a house in a decent school district. They followed the playbook exactly. So why does it feel like they are drowning? Why does a household making over 6 figures feel so financially fragile? If you have ever looked at your combined income and thought, we make too much money to feel this broke, this video is going to make a lot of things click into place. My name is Kay, and I spend way too much time studying why 2-income households are often worse off than single-income households from 50 years ago. Here is the thing. We have been sold this story that 2 incomes are better than 1. It seems mathematically obvious, right? If one person making $50,000 can support a family, then 2 people making $50,000 each should be able to support that same family and have an extra $50,000 left over for savings, investments, and building wealth. That is just basic addition. Except that is not what happened. What actually happened is one of the biggest financial bait and switches in modern history, and almost nobody talks about it. The term for this is the 2-income trap, and it was coined by Elizabeth Warren back in 2003, when she was still a Harvard bankruptcy law professor, long before she became a senator. She and her daughter Amelia wrote an entire book about this after studying over 2,000 families who had filed for bankruptcy, and what they found was shocking, in a way that should make every dual-income couple uncomfortable. Having 2 incomes did not make families more financially secure. It made them more vulnerable. It made them more likely to go bankrupt, not less. Let me say that again because your brain probably just tried to skip past it. Families with 2 working parents were actually more likely to file for bankruptcy than single-income families. Working twice as hard, bringing home 2 paychecks, doing everything the modern economy told you to do, and you end up more likely to lose everything. That is not a personal finance failure. That is a systemic trap, and you are probably standing right in the middle of it. Let me take you back to 1970 for a second, because understanding the history is the key to understanding the trap. In 1970, about 43% of women participated in the workforce. The typical middle-class family had one primary breadwinner, usually the father, and one parent at home, usually the mother, managing the household. And here is what most people do not realize. That single income was enough, not barely enough. Actually enough. According to data from the Bureau of Labor Statistics and Census Records, a median single-income family in 1970 could afford a median-priced home while spending about 25% of their income on housing. They could put their kids in public schools that were reasonably well-funded regardless of which neighborhood they lived in. They could afford basic health care, a car, groceries, and still have money left over for savings and the occasional family vacation. They had financial margin, they had breathing room, and critically, they had a backup plan. If something went wrong, if the primary earner got sick or lost their job, the stay-at-home parent could enter the workforce. That second potential income was an insurance policy, an emergency reserve that could be activated when life went sideways. That is a detail that almost everyone overlooks, and it changes the entire equation. Now fast forward to today. Female workforce participation is around 57%, and much higher among married mothers specifically. The 2-income household has become the norm, not the exception. In over 60% of married couples with children, both parents work. We have essentially activated the emergency backup plan as the default operating mode. And that is where the whole thing starts to unravel. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, the median household income in 2023 was about $74,000. Adjusted for inflation, that is significantly higher than the median household income in 1970. We are making more money than our parents and grandparents did. But look at what happened to costs. Median home prices in 1970, adjusted for inflation, were around $200,000 in today's money. The median home price in 2023 was over $400,000. Housing costs have roughly doubled relative to inflation. Healthcare spending per household has increased by over 600% since 1970. And childcare, which barely existed as a major expense in the single-income era because someone was home, now costs the average American family over $13,000 per year per child. That is the national average. In high cost of living areas like Washington, D.C. or Massachusetts, you are looking at $20,000 or more per child annually. College education costs have exploded by over 1,200% since 1980. The fixed costs of being a middle-class family have gone through the roof, while wages have merely crept up, and all that extra income from the second worker got absorbed. Every single dollar of it. The two-income family does not have double the financial security of the single-income family from 1970. They have less. Because their fixed costs expanded to consume both incomes and they burned their backup plan just to keep up with baseline expenses. Your emergency parachute is not packed in a bag anymore. You are already wearing it, and you are already falling. Now, you might be thinking, this does not apply to me. We are smart with our money. We did not let lifestyle inflation eat our second income. And look, maybe you are the exception. But let me walk you through the math of what actually happens to that second income. And I want you to be honest with yourself about whether this applies to your situation. Let us say one partner makes $70,000 and the other makes $50,000. That is $120,000 combined, which feels like a lot. Now let us focus on what happens to that $50,000 second income. First, there are taxes. Because of the way progressive tax brackets work, that second income gets taxed at a higher marginal rate than if it were the only income. The first $70,000 gets taxed at lower brackets, but that additional $50,000 comes in at the top of the stack. Depending on your state, the effective tax rate on the second income could be 30 to 35% or higher when you factor in federal income tax, state income tax, and payroll taxes. So that $50,000 immediately becomes something like $32,000 to $35,000 in actual take-home pay. But wait, there is more. If you have kids, you need childcare. The national average cost of center-based daycare is about $13,000 per year per child. Got 2 kids? That is $26,000. And that number climbs significantly in coastal states. You have not even left the house yet, and your $50,000 income is already looking thin. And we are not done. 2 working parents means 2 commutes. The average American commute costs roughly $5,000 per year in gas, maintenance, and vehicle depreciation. If you are paying for parking in a downtown area, add another $2,000 to $3,000. If you need a second car that you would not otherwise need, add the car payment, insurance, and registration. Call it $8,000 total for the second person's commuting costs. Your $50,000 is now hovering around zero, maybe negative, depending on where you live. But let us keep going because it actually gets worse. 2 exhausted working parents means less time and energy for cooking, cleaning, home maintenance, and all the tasks that a stay-at-home parent might otherwise handle. Studies consistently show that dual-income families spend significantly more on convenient services and prepared food. They are more likely to hire house cleaners, order delivery, pay for lawn services, buy pre-made meals, and eat out more frequently. Because nobody has the energy to cook after a 10-hour day, including commute. These exhaustion expenses, as I like to call them, can easily add another $5,000 to $10,000 per year, compared to a household where one person has time to manage domestic tasks. So let us add it all up. That $50,000 second income, minus roughly $18,000 for taxes, minus $13,000 for childcare for one child, minus $8,000 for commuting costs, minus $7,000 for convenience expenses and exhaustion spending. You are at about $4,000 for an entire year of full-time work. That is not a typo. The net contribution of a $50,000 second income can realistically be as low as a few $1,000s per year. Maybe less. Maybe flat out negative. Especially if you have multiple children or live in a high cost of living area. Someone is working full-time, being away from their kids, missing family dinners, grinding through traffic or crowded subway cars, and the household is netting a few $1,000s for the entire year. That works out to roughly $15 per workday, less than $2 per hour. Your second income just bought you a bad cup of coffee per hour of work. That is the math nobody shows you on the recruitment poster. And here is the psychological trap that makes the whole thing so much worse. Because the gross numbers look big, because you see that $120,000 combined income on your tax return, you feel like you should be doing well. You make spending decisions based on that combined number. You buy a house based on what 2 incomes can qualify for. You take on car payments that 2 incomes can theoretically support. The bank looks at your combined income and says, yes, you can afford this $400,000 mortgage. And technically, you can, as long as both incomes keep flowing forever. As long as neither of you gets sick or laid off or burned out. As long as nobody needs to take care of an aging parent or has a child with special needs. As long as you never hit any of the 1,000 unexpected life events that humans encounter. You know, those little inconveniences called life. This is where the trap snaps shut, and it is the part that Elizabeth Warren's research really drove home. The single-income family from 1970 had something the two-income family today does not have: financial flexibility. If the breadwinner lost their job, the stay-at-home parent could find work. Not ideal, but it was a backup. It was margin. It was resilience. The dual-income family has already played that card. Both incomes are already fully committed to the monthly obligations. There is no backup plan. There is no reserve income to activate. If either partner loses their job, gets sick, or cannot work for any reason, the family does not just lose that income. They often cannot maintain their fixed costs, even temporarily, because those costs were sized for two incomes. This is why Warren's research found that two-income families were more likely to file bankruptcy. It is not because they were irresponsible. It is because they had no margin for error. They were operating at 100% capacity, with zero reserves. Like a car engine running with no oil. Everything works fine until it does not, and then everything breaks at once. A Bank of America Institute report found that nearly 24% of all American households are living paycheck to paycheck as of 2025, spending over 95% of their income on necessities like housing, groceries, gas, utilities, and childcare. And many of those households are dual-income families making solid money on paper. They are not struggling because they do not earn enough. They are struggling because their expenses expanded to consume every dollar of their combined earnings. They are one unexpected transmission repair, one medical bill, one layoff away from financial crisis. As one Reddit comment I saw put it, "We are not broke because we do not earn enough. We are broke because the system was designed to absorb every raise before we even see it." And that person was not wrong. And here is what should really bother you about this. The expenses that consumed the second income were not luxury expenses. They were not boats and exotic vacations and frivolous spending, at least not primarily. They were housing and childcare and healthcare and education. They were the fixed costs of participating in the middle class. The system did not punish people for being reckless. It punished them for following the rules. And the worst part is, most couples do not realize it until they are already locked in. If you are finding this video valuable and you want more content that actually breaks down the financial traps most people walk into blindly, make sure to hit that subscribe button and drop a like on this video. It really helps the channel grow, and it helps me keep making content like this for you. Now, here is where growing up between two cultures gave me a perspective that most personal finance content completely misses. In Japan, dual-income households have been increasing too. The number hit 13 million in the latest labor force survey, outnumbering single-earner households by roughly 2.5 to 1. But here is the critical difference. Even as Japanese couples move toward two incomes, the cultural operating system around money did not change the way it did in America. Japanese households, even dual-income ones, tend to size their fixed costs to one income. The second income gets directed towards savings and investments rather than lifestyle expansion. According to a Minavi survey, 46% of Japanese dual-income workers still report feeling financially strained, with an average household income of about 8 million yen, which is roughly $55,000. But here is the thing. Japan's household savings rate has historically run between 10 and 15%, compared to America's personal savings rate, which has been hovering around 3 to 4%. Japanese couples earning significantly less in absolute terms are saving 3 to 4 times the percentage that American couples save. That is not genetics. That is not luck. That is a fundamentally different relationship with the second income. Part of it is cultural. In much of Japanese society, visible wealth is considered socially inappropriate. Driving a flashy car or wearing expensive designer clothing does not signal success. It signals poor judgment. The cultural pressure runs in the opposite direction from America. In the United States, you get a raise and the social expectation is that you upgrade your lifestyle. In Japan, you get a raise and the expectation is that you upgrade your savings. The default setting is different, and defaults matter more than willpower. The other part is structural. Many Japanese households still use some version of the envelope system for managing monthly spending. Cash gets physically divided into categories at the start of each month. Groceries get one envelope. Transportation gets another. Entertainment gets a smaller one. When the envelope is empty, spending in that category stops. Period. No negotiation, no borrowing from next month, no telling yourself you will make it up later. It creates real, physical friction between the impulse to spend and the act of spending. You have to open a paper envelope and watch the bills get thinner. That sounds simple, maybe even old-fashioned. But friction is the most underrated financial tool in existence. In an American system where everything is automated payments and tap-to-pay credit cards and one-click purchasing, there is almost zero friction. Money flows out as fast as it flows in, and you barely notice until the statement arrives and you wonder where it all went. And look, Japan is not perfect. There are real problems with work culture, gender expectations in household financial management, and the fact that a lot of that savings discipline comes from economic anxiety rather than enlightened financial planning. I am not romanticizing the system, but the structural outcome is clear. Japanese couples, earning less in absolute dollars, consistently build more financial margin than American couples earning more, because they never let both incomes become load-bearing walls. Now let us talk about the other force that consumed the second income, and this one is especially insidious because it looks like rational behavior at every step. The housing bidding war. In the single-income era, families competed for housing based on one income. When dual-income families became the norm, families suddenly had twice the purchasing power for the same houses. What do you think happened to prices? They got bid up. Way up. If everyone has two incomes, then two incomes become the baseline requirement, and suddenly you need two incomes just to afford what one income used to buy. It is like an arms race where everyone escalated and nobody won. The same thing happened with education. School districts are largely funded by property taxes, which means good schools exist in expensive neighborhoods. Parents naturally want to live in areas with good schools, so families started bidding up property prices in good school districts, using their two incomes to outbid others. This created what Warren calls the bidding war for educational opportunity. The price of admission to a good public school became a $400,000 mortgage instead of a $200,000 mortgage. You are not paying tuition directly, but you are paying the tuition equivalent through your housing costs. And once you are locked into that mortgage, you are locked into needing both incomes forever. You cannot go back. The trap has closed. Now, if you are sitting there thinking, okay, Kay, this is depressing, but what am I supposed to do about it? I cannot just have my partner quit their job. We need both incomes to survive. And I hear you. That is exactly the trap talking. You need both incomes to survive the lifestyle you built around both incomes. But here is the mindset shift that changes everything. You need to start treating the second income like it is temporary, even if it is not. Most families do the opposite. They treat both incomes as permanent and guaranteed, and they build their fixed costs accordingly. They buy the house that two incomes can afford. They lease the cars that two incomes can support. They enroll the kids in activities and schools that two incomes can pay for. And then they are stuck. They have built a life that requires two incomes to function, which means neither partner can ever stop working, even if they want to, even if life circumstances make it necessary. The alternative approach is what some financial planners call the one-income foundation. You structure your fixed costs, your non-negotiable monthly expenses, so they can be covered by one income alone. The second income then becomes entirely discretionary. Savings, investments, debt payoff, or, yes, some lifestyle enhancement. But the critical difference is that you could survive without it. You would have to cut back, sure. Life would not be as comfortable. But you would not lose the house. You would not go bankrupt. You would have the margin that modern dual-income families have lost. Let me make this concrete. Say your household makes $130,000 combined, $75,000 and $55,000. Instead of taking on a mortgage that requires $100,000 or more in annual income to service, you take on a mortgage that can be comfortably covered by $60,000. Instead of having two car payments, you have one or none. You live in a neighborhood that is maybe slightly less prestigious, with schools that are good but not elite. You buy the house that one income can afford, and you bank the difference. That second income, or at least the majority of it, goes straight into building wealth. Emergency fund first, then retirement accounts, then taxable investments. Every dollar you invest is buying back optionality. It is buying the flexibility to have one partner step back if needed, to take a career risk, to handle a health crisis, to be present for aging parents, to actually have a choice instead of being locked into a financial structure that demands both incomes until you are 65. And if you are trying to figure out where you actually stand financially and want to build a plan around this kind of framework, I built a tool specifically for this. First link in the description below. It starts with a short quiz about your situation, then tailors a plan to your specific income, expenses, and goals. It takes about 2 minutes and gives you a much clearer picture of where your money is actually going. This approach requires sacrifice in the short term. It means driving past the nice houses you could technically qualify for. It means explaining to friends why you are not upgrading your lifestyle even though you got a raise. It means resisting the social pressure to spend like a dual-income family because you are building like a single-income family. The Japanese have a saying, "The nail that sticks up gets hammered down." In America, the couple that does not upgrade gets questions at dinner parties. But the couple that does not upgrade also gets financial freedom about 10 years before everyone else. Here is the payoff. Within 5 to 10 years of this approach, something happens that feels almost unfair. The investments you made with that second income start generating their own income. Compounding takes over. And suddenly you actually have what you thought dual incomes would give you in the first place. Genuine financial security. You are no longer 2 job losses away from crisis. You are building wealth instead of treading water. You can make decisions based on what is best for your family rather than what is necessary to make the mortgage payment. I want to leave you with one final thought because I think it reframes this entire conversation. The 2-income trap is not really about income. It is about flexibility. It is about margin. It is about having options. Our grandparents with 1 income had something that we have traded away. The ability to absorb a shock, to change direction, to have one partner focus on raising kids or caring for family without the whole financial structure collapsing. We traded that flexibility for bigger houses and nicer cars and the appearance of prosperity. But appearances are not wealth. Cash flow is not security. And 2 incomes are not better than 1 if both of them are already spent before they arrive. The families who thrive financially in the modern economy are not the ones who earn the most. They are the ones who have preserved their flexibility, who refuse to let their expenses expand to consume their income, who kept their backup plan in reserve instead of deploying it just to keep up with the neighbors. Smart Sam and his partner earn $120,000 combined. They size their life to $70,000. They drive a reliable car that has been paid off for 3 years. They live in a neighborhood where the schools are solid, not elite, but solid. Their mortgage payment is something 1 income can cover if the other disappears tomorrow. 10 years in, they have a 6-figure investment portfolio generating passive income, an emergency fund that covers 8 months, and the option for either partner to take a year off without financial disaster. When Sam's partner wanted to start a side business last year, they could say yes without a second thought. When Sam's mother needed help after a surgery, Sam took 3 weeks off without worrying about the mortgage. Broke Brian and his partner also earn $120,000 combined. They size their life to $120,000. They have the nicer house in the better school district. 2 car payments. A kitchen renovation that they financed because the old one was fine, but not Instagram-worthy. 10 years in, they have a bigger house, better furniture, and a persistent low-grade anxiety about what happens if either of them loses their job next month. When Brian's partner mentioned wanting to go part-time to spend more time with the kids, they both went quiet for a minute and changed the subject. That conversation has not come up again. Same income, same city, same decade, completely different financial reality. The only difference is what they did with the trap once they saw it. You can earn your way out of a lot of problems, but you cannot earn your way out of a trap you do not even know you are in. Now you know.